The stage was silent. A single spotlight shone down, casting a golden glow on the figure standing in the center. The audience, a sea of faces filled with curiosity and anticipation, sat in stillness, waiting. Then, with a calm yet powerful presence, Jesus stepped forward. He was 33 years old, his face carrying the warmth of a man who had seen both the joys and sorrows of the world. There was something in his eyes, a deep understanding, a compassion that reached into the souls of those watching. He took a deep breath and spoke. "Hello, everyone. My name is Jesus, and I am 33 years old. Today, I have come here to share something deeply personal with all of you." His voice was soft yet unwavering, carrying a depth that made the audience lean in closer. He wasn't here just to sing a song. He was here to share a truth, a promise, a love that had never wavered. The song I'm about to sing is a reflection of the greatest truth I have carried through my journey. Love is the reason. It's for you, the lost, the weary, and the hopeful. I was born to walk with you, to feel your pain, and to light your way. Even in your darkest moments, I want you to remember this. You are never alone. My heart beats for you, and my love for you is eternal. This song is my message to you. It's not just words, but a promise. May it remind you of the infinite light that surrounds you and the hope that never fades. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you. I love you. A hush fell over the crowd. A few people in the front row wiped their eyes. They hadn't even heard the song yet, and already their hearts were stirred. Then the first notes of the song filled the air, and Jesus began to sing, a song that spoke to every heart. A gentle melody floated through the room, wrapping around each person like a comforting embrace. His voice was pure, filled with warmth and emotion. Every word carried weight, a truth that resonated in the depths of every soul. Lyrics: "Always I left the stars, the throne of gold, to walk the earth. The story foretold, I in a manger cold. I made my start to heal the world, to touch your heart." His voice soared, carrying the pain, the sacrifice, the love that had shaped his journey. I was born to love you, every tear you cried, to bring the lost back home, to stand by your side. Through the silent night, under heaven's glow, I was born to love you, this you must know. The words hung in the air, touching something deep within the listeners. Many in the audience sat frozen, as if time itself had stopped. Jesus closed his eyes as he continued, pouring his very soul into the song. The angels sang, the shepherds came, to see the child who'd bear their pain. With tiny hands, I'd one day reach a broken world with love and peace. Somewhere in the audience, a woman clasped her hands together, tears running down her face. The words were reaching into parts of her heart she had long buried. The message behind the song. As the final note faded into silence, the room remained still. Then a wave of applause erupted, some standing to their feet, others wiping away tears moved beyond words. Jesus lowered the microphone slightly, taking in the faces before him. He wasn't finished. "Thank you for allowing me to share that song with you," he said, his voice soft yet filled with conviction. "But I am not finished yet." A hush fell once more. He stepped closer to the edge of the stage, looking out into the crowd, his eyes searching, not just looking at the people, but seeing them. "When I came into this world, it wasn't with crowns or riches, but with a promise that love would always meet you where you are, no matter how far or how lost you feel." A few people in the crowd nodded, as if understanding. This next song reflects that night, a night when hope was born, and light began to shine in the darkest places. I hope it reminds you that I came for you, I walk with you, and my love will always hold you. And with that, the music began again. The second song, A Night of Hope. The melody was soft, like a whisper in the night, carrying the weight of sacrifice, redemption, and eternal love. Lyrics: "On this night, so still, so bright, I traded heaven for the cold moonlight. Wrapped in straw, not robes of kings, I came to bear the love I bring." A man in the back of the room closed his eyes, the words cracking open something inside him. "This night, I came for the weary and worn, to cradle your heart, though my hands are torn. Through the silent dark, I'll call your name to show you love. This night I came." The song painted a picture of a humble beginning, of love that would change the world, of a journey that began in the quiet of a manger but would end with salvation. Jesus' voice never wavered, even as the words carried the weight of his own destiny. No palace walls, no crown of gold, a mother's arms, the story unfolds. With every cry, with every breath, I came to lead through life and death. He closed his eyes, singing as though speaking to each individual heart in the room. The manger holds the hope of years. The light that falls will dry your tears. With every step, with every scar, I bring you near, no matter how far. By the time he sang the final line, the audience was no longer just watching a performance. They were witnessing a promise, the promise of eternal love. As the last note echoed, the room remained in absolute stillness. Some people had their hands over their hearts. Others had their heads bowed, overwhelmed by the sheer depth of love they had just experienced. Jesus took a slow breath and stepped back from the microphone, letting the moment settle. And then, finally, he whispered, "You are never alone." A single tear rolled down the cheek of a young man in the front row. He finally believed it. As the applause rose once more, Jesus stood humbly, knowing that his mission had never been about the song itself. It was about the love it carried. The applause gradually faded, but the air remained thick with emotion. People in the audience were visibly moved, some wiping their tears, others sitting still, processing the depth of what they had just heard. Jesus stood on stage, watching them with a quiet understanding. He had not come just to sing. He had come to remind them of something eternal. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward once more. His voice was gentle yet powerful, carrying a sense of calm that settled over the crowd like a warm embrace. "I know that life is filled with hardships," he began, his gaze sweeping across the room. "There are moments when the weight of the world feels unbearable, when you feel lost, alone, and forgotten. But I need you to hear me tonight. You are never alone." A quiet murmur ran through the audience. Some people exchanged glances, while others simply nodded, feeling the truth of his words deep within their souls. "I came into this world not to be served, but to serve, to carry burdens that were never meant to be carried alone. And I want you to know that every step you take, I walk with you." He paused, letting the silence amplify the message. Then, slowly, the music began again. The soft strumming of a guitar filled the room, and Jesus closed his eyes, preparing to deliver another song. Not just lyrics, but a promise, a song of endless love. The melody was soft at first, delicate, like a whisper in the night. But as Jesus opened his mouth to sing, the power of his voice carried through the air, wrapping around the audience like a shield against the darkness. Lyrics. "Through the valley deep, through the raging storm, I have called your name since the day you were born. With every tear, with every pain, I will hold you close. I will take the shame." People listened with their eyes closed, their hearts open. These were not just words. They were a lifeline. "I was born to love you, never let you go. When the night is darkest, I will be your glow. Through the silent cries, through the fear inside, I was born to love you, I am by your side." The room was no longer just a stage and an audience. It was a place of healing, a sanctuary of hope. Tears streamed down the face of an elderly man in the front row, his hands trembling as he held them together. Beside him, a young woman clutched her chest, her lips moving silently in prayer. The words reached every broken part of them, stitching together the wounds they thought would never heal. The message of hope. As the last note rang out, Jesus lowered the microphone and let the silence speak. The room felt different now, lighter, as though a weight had been lifted from every soul present. He took a step closer to the crowd, his eyes scanning the faces before him. He saw them, not just expressions on their faces, but the stories in their hearts. "There is a love that never fades," he said softly. "No matter what you've done, no matter how far you feel, no matter the pain you carry, it does not define you. Love defines you, and you are never beyond its reach." A single sob broke the silence, followed by another. Some people had their heads bowed, their hands covering their faces. Others were simply staring at him, eyes glistening with understanding. For some, these were words they had been waiting to hear their entire lives. The invitation to believe. Jesus took a deep breath, knowing this moment was unlike any other. He was not here for spectacle. He was not here for applause. He was here for them. If you take nothing else from tonight, take this. You are loved, you are seen, and you are never alone. A long silence stretched between them. No one dared to break it. No one wanted to. And then one person stood. A young man in the back of the room rose to his feet, his face wet with tears. He didn't say a word, but he didn't need to. His trembling lips and the way he held his heart said everything. Then another person stood, and another. Slowly, the entire room rose to their feet. Jesus smiled, feeling the depth of the moment settle over him. This was not about music. This was not about performance. This was about love. A love that never fades. A love that never leaves. A love that had been there all along, waiting for them to believe. As the crowd stood, emotions ran high. Some people were holding their hands to their hearts, while others wiped away silent tears. There was an unspoken feeling in the air, one of peace, healing, and understanding. They weren't just hearing words. They were feeling them. Jesus stood at the edge of the stage, his gaze filled with warmth and quiet certainty. He had come here to share not just a message, but a promise. And he wasn't finished yet. Love is more than words, he said, his voice steady. It is sacrifice. It is giving even when nothing is returned. It is choosing to stand by someone even when the world turns away. He let the words settle before continuing. I was born not to be served, but to serve. To carry burdens, to heal the broken, and to remind you that no matter what happens, love will always find you. A hush fell over the room. People listened, truly listened, as if their very souls were absorbing every syllable. The song of redemption, the soft hum of a piano filled the air, carrying the weight of an untold story. Jesus closed his eyes and took a breath. When he opened them, his voice carried the melody of a love that never fades, never leaves, never gives up. Lyrics. Through the weary roads, through the shattered past, I have walked with you. I have held you fast. With the weight of the world pressing on my soul, I have carried you. I have made you whole. The music swelled, wrapping the crowd in a wave of emotion. Some people bowed their heads, whispering silent prayers. Others clung to the words as if they were the only thing keeping them standing. I was born to love you, even through the pain, through the trials of life, through the pouring rain. Though the world may break you, though your heart may cry, I will always find you. I will never say goodbye. The melody faded, but the silence that followed was more powerful than any applause could be. The power of sacrifice. Jesus lowered the microphone slightly and looked at the faces before him. They were ready to hear the truth. Love is sacrifice. His voice was steady, yet filled with emotion. Real love is not just given in moments of joy, but in the darkest hours. True love does not abandon, does not betray, does not seek anything in return. His eyes searched the crowd. Some faces were hopeful. Others held sorrow, the weight of past wounds still fresh. Some of you have felt abandoned. Some of you have been hurt so deeply that you fear love itself. But listen to me. Love has never left you. Love is still calling your name. A woman in the front row sobbed into her hands. A man at the back clenched his fists, his lips trembling. The words were reaching them, breaking down walls they had built for so long. Jesus took a deep breath. I came for you. I walked with you. And I gave everything because I love you. A long silence followed. Somewhere in the room, hearts began to heal. An invitation to believe. The moment stretched, each second carrying the weight of eternity. Then Jesus raised his hand toward the crowd, not in command, but in invitation. If you believe that love still exists, if you believe that you are not alone, if you believe that there's a light that never fades, then open your heart tonight. Slowly, the sound of quiet weeping filled the room. But this time they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of release, of healing, of letting go. One by one, people reached out their hands, some in silent prayer, some in surrender, some simply to touch the air, as if feeling the presence of something greater than themselves. Jesus smiled. He had seen this before. He had known this moment would come, because love never fails. The room was filled with something beyond words, a presence, a peace, a love that could not be explained but only felt. The audience had come searching for something, and now many of them realized they had found it. Jesus stood on the stage, his eyes reflecting the depth of understanding that had been passed from heart to heart. He could see it in their faces. Some had come weary, burdened by years of pain. Others had arrived feeling lost, uncertain of their purpose. But now something had changed. He stepped forward once more, the final words of his message lingering on his lips. Love is eternal. It is not bound by time, nor does it fade with distance. It is here, it is now, and will always be with you. Silence fell over the crowd, but it was no longer the silence of uncertainty. It was a silence of understanding. The final song, A Love That Stays. The music began softly, gentle, yet full of strength. It was not a song of sadness, but a song of assurance, of joy, of a love that would never be lost. Lyrics: though the night may fall, though the road is long, through the rising waves, I will keep you strong. When the world grows cold, when you feel afraid, I will never leave. Love will never fade. A hush fell over the audience, each word settling deep within their souls. I was born to love you, every breath, each day, through the trials of life, through the joy and pain. Though the years may pass, though the storms may rise, I am always with you. Love never says goodbye. The words weren't just lyrics. They were a promise. The final words. As the last note drifted into silence, Jesus lowered the microphone. Looking out into the sea of faces before him, he knew that each of them carried a story. Some were still healing. Some were still searching. But he also knew one thing for certain. None of them were alone. He took a deep breath, his voice steady and full of certainty. When you walk from this place tonight, I want you to remember something. Love is not just a feeling. It is a promise, a truth that will never leave you. He placed a hand over his heart. And I promise you this, I walk with you always. A few quiet sobs echoed through the room. Hope had settled in, deep and unshakable. Slowly, the applause began. Soft at first, then rising into a thunderous wave of gratitude. Some people stood, others stayed seated with hands clasped in silent prayer. But all of them had been changed, because tonight they had been reminded of a love that never leaves, never fades, and never stops calling their name. The journey continues. Jesus stepped back on the stage, but his presence lingered. As the audience filed out into cool night air, some wiping their tears, others with quiet smiles, they carried something with them. Not just the memory of a song, not just the echo of a voice, but the undeniable, unshakable truth that love had never left them and never would. And in that truth, they found peace.